Andrew J. Macky, with a party of prospectors, trudged west from Beaver Dam, Wisconsin in 1859 to follow the lure of gold. Instead of hitting pay dirt in the Colorado Gold Rush, he banked on the wealth of others. When Macky died in 1907, he was the former president of the First National Bank and Boulder's richest resident. At the time, 30 years had passed since the University of Colorado opened the doors of its only building, Old Main, on a barren mesa south of town. Although the railroad still rumbled through the campus, additional buildings and maturing cottonwood trees began to soften the harsh surroundings. Macky's promise to CU football players, quote, to do something for the boys, unquote, was revealed in his will when he designated $300,000 for the construction of an auditorium. CU President James Baker then asked Denver architects Gove and Walsh to harmonize the elements of buildings he had admired in Europe and come up with something different. In September 1909, on the day of the auditorium's groundbreaking, a daily camera headline optimistically proclaimed, "Splendid building begun." Dignitaries spoke, students cheered, and the band played on. On Alumni Day, October 8, 1910, a group of university officials placed mementos in a copper box. They inserted the box into a cavity in a large granite cornerstone, which members of the Masonic Grand Lodge, with ritualistic ceremonies, hoisted into place near the building's future entrance. As Dean Antoinette Bigelow later noted, however,
mostly what we did was to fight the wind, which blew that morning so menacingly across the lake and over the little bare hillside that one wondered whether even a building could stand there long.
The winds also ushered in unforeseen obstacles. Work was stopped when Macky's adopted daughter contested his will, and the subsequent litigation continued for years. Even so, President James H. Baker worked from an office within the shell of the building. It stood unfinished as young men left Boulder for the First World War, and influenza killed and quarantined those at home. Despite the bare interior, in December 1919, band leader John Philip Sousa gave a rousing concert to an enthusiastic crowd nearly 2 years before the auditorium's formal dedication. In 1923, temporary pine benches were replaced with seats for 2,600. Audiences included many from the larger Boulder community. Also in 1923 came the dedication of the auditorium's $68,000 pipe organ. And Helen Keller, blind and deaf since infancy, packed the house with one of her many inspirational lectures. She was followed by other well-known speakers and entertainers, including Boulder opera singer Josephine Antoine and poet Robert Frost, whose performances set the stage for the years to come. As the student body grew and the campus evolved, Macky Auditorium remained at its front and center. In addition to high school graduations and community events, CU students gathered in the performance hall to take freshman entrance exams, then found the building a familiar haven 4 years later for commencement. In 1935, President George Norland stood on the stage to deliver his baccalaureate address, now repeated every year as the Norland Charge to the graduates. The Artist Series was initiated in 1937 and included among its early performers contralto Marian Anderson, as well as the Trapp Family Singers. Students during the Great Depression were far removed from the breadlines and shanty towns of the unemployed. But they quickly tuned in to world events when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in December 1941. President Robert L. Stearns used the auditorium for an emergency convocation, stating that there would be no change of schedule during final exams. "Just do the best possible," he said, "and mutter a prayer." Veterans swelled the campus enrollment during the post-war era. When the Conference on World Affairs started in 1948, the words of one stimulating speaker after another reverberated throughout the ivy-covered building. In April 1955, an overflow crowd of students and citizens alike gathered to hear former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt speak on world peace. Even so, the Cold War lurked on the horizon. Civil defense supplies were lowered into the basement, turning the auditorium into a huge fallout shelter. Then came more turbulent years for the campus and the nation. In 1969, the auditorium withstood unruly demonstrators during a lecture by S.I. Hayakawa. In 1970, the roof was bombed. And in 1971, gatecrashers started a near riot at a sold-out Neil Young concert. Macky's namesake regained the respect of the community in 1980 when the auditorium was included as a contributing building in the Norland Quadrangle National Historic District. The auditorium's renovation into a concert hall in 1985 furthered its acoustics and ambience, as well as providing new and larger seats. Throughout the years, national and international performers have graced the stage. We are all richer today for the foresight and generosity 100 years ago of Andrew J. Macky. He came west to find his fortune. Then he shared it with the university and the community. More than stone walls, he provided a place to meet, speak, and be heard. As President Norland so eloquently stated, the university is not the campus, not the buildings on the campus, not the faculties, nor the students of any one time, not one of these or all of them. The university consists of all who come into and go forth from her halls, who are touched by her influence and who carry on her spirit. He may have had Andrew J. Macky in mind.